Can you name the president of Chechnya?
No, can you?
And the Prime Minister of India?
The new Prime Minister of India is, no.
A day like today, I mean, it's not a day for the sound bites, really. I feel the hand of history upon our shoulder.
Most politicians are funny unintentionally. Margaret Thatcher had no sense of humour. She famously, on one occasion, speaking of her deputy, Willie Whitelaw, said that Willie was so great that every Prime Minister needs a Willie.
When you give your evidence to the think tank, are you going to support my view that the civil service is overmanned and feather-bedded, or not? Yes or no? Straight answer.
Well, Minister, if you ask me for a straight answer, then I should say that, as far as we can see, looking at it by and large, taking one time with another, in terms of the average of departments, then in the final analysis, it is probably true to say that at the end of the day, in general terms, you would probably find that, not to put too fine a point on it, there probably wasn't very much in it one way or the other. As far as one can see, at this stage.
Is that yes or no?
Civil servants are part of the political process.
Yes and no.
Because they are the keepers of knowledge and know how things are done, they can be very obstructive, and that was Sir Humphrey's power. He knew how to do things. In one politics course, we look at how institutions determine the way in which political actors operate. Civil servants in the 50s, 60s and 70s were very much wedded to a traditional way of governing. And so ministers who came in and wanted to change things would have found it slightly difficult to push their agenda. Things have changed dramatically since then. The ethos of the civil service now is to actually say yes, minister, and to mean yes, minister. That changed in the 80s largely due to the Thatcher government and also subsequently the Major and Blair governments, where the civil service began to appreciate that they would benefit themselves by doing what it was their political principles ministers wanted them to do.
The data loss wasn't my fault.
Fine, yeah, but
Special advisors are extremely powerful if they work for powerful ministers.
Should I just go and talk to the boss? Should I go and tell him? I don't think she's up to the job.
You said yourself that if he sacks me after a week, it looks like he's
Yeah, but that was before, when your only problem was a pun in a newspaper and a face like Doc Cotton licking off a nettle.
Tucker is powerful because he speaks for and on behalf of the Prime Minister.
I will, from now on, listen to every bit of advice you give me. I'll go on Question Time wearing a push-up bra and a fez. I'll do the hustings on stilts if that is what you tell me the strategy is. Because you know about that stuff, Malcolm, I know that.
He has an expertise, we are led to believe, in media management, so people trust him to manage the media and to deal with crises and persuade the media to see politics as the politician wants politics to be seen.
But it entails you, my dear, eating a complete concrete mixer full of humble pie.
All the political stories that happened in the history of the Blair government between 1997 and 2003, Alistair Campbell, his special advisor, was at the centre of every single story. He was Blair's right-hand man. His job was not just presentation, but also policy. And every single cabinet minister, his diaries demonstrate, go to him for advice and assistance and help. Getting the story out is the way in which you govern, by using the news media 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Ed Miliband, who is the present Labour leader, began his political life as a special advisor. David Cameron was a special advisor, worked for Michael Howard in the Treasury. Nick Clegg was a special advisor working for Leon Britton in the European Commission. It's now a career track into politics. Because media management is so essential a part of the modern politician's armoury, they invest enormous effort in news management.
Bear in mind that something like 70 to 80% of the actual demand are single-parent households or single youngsters or people who are living in a single house. Can you do that again? I made that.
Sorry, we're live at the moment, Mr. Prescott.
Here goes. Go!
We need to be clearer about what's going on in Graham's tank.
Science is a really exciting discipline, and The reason is that it goes from the most mathematical side, physics and chemistry, and through environmental and field sciences to biology. The whole lot is called science.
Now, this should begin to give us some clues as to whether...
Brian, I'm sorry.
What's happened?
You said 0.567359.
Oh, no, I didn't.
It should be 0.567394.
I don't believe it! Oh,
The normal parody of scientists, isn't it? They just get so hung up over, you know, the 9th or 10th decimal place. Scientists find that just as funny as anybody else finds it. But you know, that 9th decimal place, it really is important. Scientists are passionate about their area of science, and for most scientists that involves measuring something somewhere along the line. My work involves monitoring active volcanoes.
Once the lake's gone, the volcanic gases can come straight up to the atmosphere, and that's when it starts to get really nasty.
We make very precise measurements on those volcanoes. We're measuring the gravity and the ground deformation, so as the ground goes up and down, and measuring the subsurface changes in mass below the volcano. And these are the changes that happen before an eruption. I think the important thing about the Fry and Laurie clip is that it shows exactly how we don't teach science and all the worst things about science, really. I mean, it isn't just great long equations and you know, having to learn things by rote.
Of course, we've done our best to make these look as simple as possible.
It's addressing real-day issues and important topics.
We took 4 cardboard tubes, the kind of tube you'd find in a regular brand of household toilet tissue, and then proceeded to place them on the floor, making 4 columns equidistantly thus. We wanted to test if these cardboard tubes would support the average body weight of a human man. No.
No scientist is ever going to make measurements that are pointless. Why would they? Sometimes in the explanation to the public, so much is lost that it appears to be a completely pointless topic. And that, of course, is what's being parodied here. People do tend to think that scientists are middle-aged men, often quite hairy, and they wear white coats. Now, of course, there are a lot of those, but there are also quite a lot of women involved in science, and they're not all old. You look at the general population and you can find examples of those as scientists. It's really the passion. That's what scientists are. They're passionate about what they do. If you're interested in geosciences, and that's the evolution of the Earth, then we can certainly teach that here at the Open University, and it's part of the BSc in Natural Sciences, which is available globally online.
Good evening. If the autocue was working, I could now read you something. But as it isn't, I can't.
Comedy from journalism comes from the fact that they have to do 2 things which are sort of contradictory, because on the one hand they have to tell the truth. The fact says it's supposed to be our access to the news, to the truth. But on the other hand, they're competing against other journalists, so they have to be entertaining. And there's this, I think that's why people are sometimes cynical about journalists.
I'm here at the Asclepios Hospital in Athens, and what we're being told here tonight is that the head of the surgical team treating the 59-year-old woman at the centre of this unfolding drama, Dr. Apostolonopoulos, will come out of that door you could see behind me, down the ramp in front of it, and then make a statement to the waiting media any moment now.
And do we know what he's likely to say in that bulletin?
Well, Francis, not at this stage, no. And indeed, it may well be that we won't know what he's going to say until he's saying it.
And Will, when you say that at the moment we don't know what he's going to say...
Before it just becomes absurd, you watch it and you think, yeah, OK, or maybe nothing's happening, but he sounds as if he's saying stuff to you. And then you think about it, and he's not saying anything to you at all.
At this stage, we don't even know whether Dr. Apostolonopoulos is a man or indeed a woman.
The danger with 24-hour news is you have all this time to fill. You can get a story which in the old days might have had a bit of a life and then died, and the story tends to run and run. Or a story can get prominence which it otherwise wouldn't have got. A lot of the jobs in the media are real skivvy jobs, and you can end up doing a long apprenticeship making coffee before you do anything particularly interesting.
You'll need these. The blackberries in case anyone needs a latte or something urgently, so you can come straight up. And the canaries to tell you if the mine's filling up with poisonous gas, because if it is, it'll start to die.
Right, OK. I mean, I'm not, this is... Obviously, I really want this job. It's just...
Look, this is TV, yeah? Maybe one day, in a few years' time, you'll be researching on Any Dream Will Do. But before that, there's a hell of a lot of mining to get through.
What you've got then is this enormous imbalance where somebody quite reasonably want a job, and yet the capacity for somebody exploiting them is legion, because if they don't do it, there's a queue of people who would do it. I can write my books. I write my books. Nobody reads them. I don't really make much of a difference. But if you're a journalist, you can uncover a story about exploitation. You can put that on the television or in the newspaper and write it in a way that people will just stand up and say, no, we ought to take notice of this. So you can take the skills that the arts faculty would teach you, which are the ability to analyse argument, the ability to sift through evidence, the ability to communicate your ideas, both in written form and verbally, and you can really put them to good use to make a difference in the world.
Rex Malik feels the business world's pulse from his bedside.
I think media portrays people in IT as a little bit geeky. If you want to have success in computing, if you want to develop successful products that people actually love, you really need to engage with people. You need to understand what people want.
Rob.
What?
I'm quicker with my own name. What comes next? Oh, space. Then, come on, all this will take forever.
You can do it faster than that.
No, I can't, David. I can't. Oh, pick on the non-swimmer, shoot the wounded, and typing as fast as I possibly can.
Rob and I will be
And A space N space D space Shift I.
What? Why are you doing spaces between the letters?
Oh, I'll have to go back. Delete, delete, delete. Whee! Oh, I've gone too far.
The OU is heavily involved in designing and developing new user interface technologies, be it speech technology, gesture-based user interfaces, or tabletop-based computing. In many ways, I'm just a normal user of computers, just like everyone else. And I get frustrated, I get angry sometimes, I start shouting at the computer, and people around me realize that I'm upset. I think it's obvious that as a society we face big problems, be it pollution, any environmental aspects, food shortages and these kind of things. And computers increasingly are used to help people do things better, more efficiently, have more fun, and changing people's life in a way I think is quite interesting. I think computers increasingly will have the ability to not only understand what is currently going on, but also predict what will be going on in the future.
Rex Malik sees a future world where every home will have its own terminal plugged into a central brain, and where eventually his very thoughts could be stored and perhaps assessed for his future use.
They're generally portrayed as kind of being out of touch, a bit old-fashioned, wearing cardigans, socks with sandals, kind of a busybody coming to interfere in people's lives.
I really think this is not a very suitable environment for a child.
Well, it's her fault. She's a slob.
You're the slob!
You're the slob. Every time I go for a piss, the sink's full of washing up. And you never hoover the carpet.
How can I hoover it? I ain't seen it in 3 years.
Good point. Blimey. Either Frogmella needs her nappy changed or you've just dropped one.
Oh, can you change her, please? Only he won't do it, and I would watch home away. I'm afraid I'm going to have to take this child into care.
Oh, good.
Thanks,
The Harry Enfield sketch isn't realistic in the sense that she just goes in there and takes a child away. She doesn't go in there to explain why she's calling. But the best way would be working with the parents and explaining that together you need to make this better for their child. And you do learn that on your course.
All right, lover. Did you get her purse?
There's not that much truth in that portrayal of social workers. Social workers do have some fashion sense. From where I work, there's a mixed age range. It's not just middle-aged women, there's younger women that are working as well. There are some men, but I still would say that it's predominantly female. I'd say that child protection figures quite predominantly in the media.
Yes, I'm investigating a report that children are being kept in drawers behind this desk.
That's right, yes.
Now, I know it doesn't sound very likely, but I have... What did you say?
I said yes.
You're keeping 3 children in drawers behind the desk?
Well, there's only one in the drawer at the moment. She's been having some rather bad nightmares and she's having a little lie down.
And the others?
Well, they're in the cupboard. I don't know what they're doing. Oh, Ben is watching the television and Emily is doing some colouring. Please mind the wall, sweetie.
May I see the child in the drawer?
Oh, yes, but you have to be quiet. She's a very tired little girl.
You just leave her there in the dark?
You can't put a light bulb in there. The heat cooks them. It's not the sort of mistake you make twice, I can tell you.
Advocating and championing for people's rights, I'd say, is a big part of social work. It could be advocating for the child's rights, so it would be important to do some direct work with the child to understand their views and what they want. And, you know, in the British Empire clip, the child may not want to sit in the cupboard. Obviously, social work isn't just about child protection. It's also about working with adults and working with people with a learning disability or people maybe at a difficult time in their life and trying to help them or want to make a difference in people's lives, whether that's just a small difference. I wrote a court report for a child to be adopted by their step-parent, and when that went through, the child came up and thanked me, so that kind of made me feel like really warm inside.
Teachers are portrayed in a maybe slightly old-fashioned way, you know, as just standing in front of a class, asking questions, students answer, and maybe they're not all that terribly interested.
Who's had a chance to look at Romeo and Juliet since last week? No. Well, I know, you know, you've all been busy. It's difficult to make time. But anybody at all? No. Okay, good. Right, so you're all coming to it fresh. That's probably better, in fact. In fact, well done. Good. Right, now, first of all, this is Mr. Lewis. He's just popped in to see how we're all getting on. Just ignore him. Well, don't ignore him, but, you know. Well, here's an instruction. I wonder, who can tell me what ignore means? Anyone tell me what ignore means?
I think possibly every teacher feels for him. We might laugh about it, but we also feel for him because we've all been in that situation when you come with a perfectly prepared lesson plan, you go into the class. It might have worked in many, many lessons before, but this morning with this group of students, it just doesn't.
Okay, so that's ignore. Right. Well, who'd like me to write it down? Should we write it down? Hands up. Who'd like me to write it down? Ignore. No one. Okay, so we're happy with ignore. Good. All right, then. Oh.
I would hope it doesn't apply to language teaching. All our materials are designed to really engage them actively with a text, with an audio source, or with a video clip.
I have brung greetings from British intelligence headquarters.
What does he say?
I think he brings greetings from intelligence headquarters.
I have disguised as policeman, so I am able to move about with complete freedom.
You think he will get away with that accent?
As long as he does not speak, yes.
Pronunciation is, of course, something, if you get it wrong, then in the case of Officer Crabtree, it's a matter of life and death for him. In our normal life, it's not quite as dangerous to mispronounce.
2% de français, part en Oceanie.
If you actually go out in the street, you will hear all sorts of accents and dialects. At the Open University, we put a lot of emphasis on what we call intercultural learning. If you want to really pass as a French national, you have to actually know a lot about the local customs, the way things are said, the metaphors that you use. About 10% of companies actually employ migrants because of their language skills, and about 13% go abroad because they cannot gather language skills here in the UK. There's a huge gap, and there's huge potential, and it would be great if we could fill that potential.
A judge in 1975 said that ideally you shouldn't be able to imagine a judge in the bath. If you can, something's gone wrong with the judicial nature of the character. Knitting while on the bench, drinking sherry and other alcoholic beverages, reading the Times if they found a witness particularly boring, doing the crossword, giving judgments in their pyjamas. All human life is there, a significant part of it.
Right, so we're on the bus, right? Bus is crawling down the bus, right? And this girl shouts out. She shouts out across the whole bus. She goes, "Oi, driver, hurry up, mate. Some of us have got to go court, innit?" But then she looks around to include all of us in that, because obviously we're all going to court. I was like, speak for yourself. I'm on bail. I'm guessing she's not the judge. Do you know what I mean?
What's funny about this sketch, I think, the heart of it is that it makes it more evident that there is an inherent unfairness in the way that society is carrying on at the moment. The fact that you need a judiciary representative of the fabric of the society over which it presides is an extremely important point. Until really the last quarter of the 20th century, British judges were almost exclusively male, upper middle class, educated within a very small number of schools and universities, and had very similar backgrounds. The great part of the 20th century forms a stereotype, a fairly reliable one, of what British judges were like.
Chantel QC? Can't see it myself. Round our way, it'd be MC Chantel QC. Thank you very much. She'd be there in court going, "You're getting 5 years because you mugged that little old lady. But if you're good and if you're lucky, then just maybe." Oi, right? You'll be out in 2 weeks because the system's bare crazy. All rise.
Less than 1% of the senior judiciary is from an ethnic minority background. In the Supreme Court of the UK, only 1 in 12 judges is female.
They probably sometimes do things that you might think were sexist without realising that that's what they're doing, simply because they haven't had enough women around to take them up on it.
Mr. Justice Salmon once said to a female witness in court, objecting to her describing herself as Ms, he says, "As far as I'm concerned, there are only 3 types of women, wives, whores or mistresses, so which are you?"
I would prefer that we didn't wear wigs. They make everybody look like old men, and then everybody's surprised that people think of the judges as being old men.
The times there are changing, and that now there is a move towards greater recognition of the importance of appointing people from all backgrounds on merit.